Hello, and welcome back to another mini episode of the Delve Podcast. I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam. I'm the Executive and Clinical Director at Delft Psychotherapy Chicago.
Help us spread the word with this podcast. It would really help us out. We're not trying for fame here. We don't plan to run ads. We just want to add value and be helpful to as many people as possible. So please share with others. Send to at least one other person that you think would also find value in our podcast.
Please.
Here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. Reach out for a free consultation at delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. And please do check out our Substack. We have a lot of great topics on there as well at delvepsych.substack.com.
We'd be so ever grateful. Ever so grateful. We'd be ever so grateful. We'll be grateful forever.
How many different ways can we say the same thing? Okay, so Adam, this episode was upon request.
Yes, a listener asked us to tackle this question. So essentially the question was about whether other people can make us feel an emotion. So this is in the context of, let's say, a disagreement. Like when you said that, it made me feel like rejected, or it made me feel shut down, etc. So
yeah, I mean, can't people make us feel things? I feel like you're going to have an argument against that. But I could see a client. Right. But I could see a client saying like, yeah, I felt really attacked by this person. Or I felt really shamed, blamed by this person. Yeah.
So in any cases in which we are using those words, typically that have like ed endings on them, attacked, blamed, shamed, we're usually describing something that I would kind of call like a perception of their actions rather than an experience of your own emotion. So we're already getting in a messy bit of language when we're saying, oh, you made me feel a perception about a thing you did. Is not a feeling. Sorry to be pedantic, but it's not a feeling. So where is the feeling part of that? Attacked is not really a feeling in the way that I think about feelings, which aren't about what the other person is doing. It's about what's happening for me internally.
Absolutely. This was an eye-opener for me. We did a didactic where we went through our emotion word list and tried to remove every word that felt like a finger-pointy word. And that's what we're talking about when we say attacked. Okay, who's doing the attacking? You're pointing at the other person and saying that you attacked me. You did the attacking.
Well, they rejected me.
So the other person did the rejecting.
But I'm so forsaken.
Well, the other person, you're saying that the other person forsake you. I'm not saying this is easy. This is very hard to like describe how you're feeling without any sort of finger pointy word. You gave the example of shut down. So that would be an emotion that doesn't have any of those like finger pointy connotations to it. So it might take you a moment to come up with a word that doesn't involve any sort of finger pointy language. But I think it's very useful because I think when you start using the finger pointy language, it's really easy for the other person to get defensive.
Absolutely. So one, it's bad stratagem with respect to an interpersonal circumstance, a discussion, a debate, etc. It's just bad strategy. But two, I also think that it is off in terms of a psychological pursuit. Like if you're aiming for your own equanimity on some level, I think it's a bad strategy because you're taking a moment in which you are clearly feeling a lot, and you are placing the emphasis, the foci, entirely on their actions rather than your own experiences. There's such an opportunity for growth in noticing your own emotions and your own experiences. And I agree that this is not easy, and I screw it up all the time when I'm actually upset about something. But this is the reminder that we try to keep ourselves. This is the standard we want to try to hold ourselves to, is when you start pointing the finger at them, look back at thyself. What is happening to me right now? Why does this matter to me so much? Where from my past am I currently drawing? What does this remind me of? What am I protecting or fighting against right now? What outcome do I mean to preserve or protect or whatever else? Like, there's stuff that's happening with me that I'm ignoring, I'm missing, because I'm so focused on them.
Right. And how much could that communication change just by focusing more on what's happening with me versus, because I think a lot of times in arguments, we're way more focused on what the other person did wrong. What's going on with them? How are they behaving? What did they do towards me versus what's actually coming up for me in this moment? What's going on with me?
Well, and it's so easy to see what the other person has done because the eyes point out.
Right.
It's much harder to get them to gaze inward.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever tried flipping my eyeballs to look like toward
I'm
myself.
sure somebody could do it.
But I don't, maybe. Let's look at the Guinness Book of Records. No. But so, okay, I could see someone saying, okay, I understand I'm not supposed to use like finger-pointy language and it's more about me. But yes, this other person made me feel this way. They were so incredibly rude to me. They called me names. How can you say they didn't make me feel this way? Yes, they did. Like, it was all based on the language that they used towards me. How is that my responsibility? I don't know what the word is, but I hope you know what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. One of the big skills that I try to spend a lot of time teaching, and I really do want to be a central through line of this podcast, is this idea of kind of what I call partialing. Break it into pieces. So let's take one of those things. You said that they called you a name. What name did they call you?
They said I was an asshole.
Okay. So when do you think you're an asshole?
No.
Why does it bother you that they said that you're an asshole if you don't think you're an asshole?
Because I'm not. And like, I don't want anyone to think of me in that way.
Anyone? Somebody's going to think of you as an asshole. Somebody somewhere.
Okay. Maybe you're right. True. But in this circumstance, I was not being an asshole. I was simply sticking up for myself. And so I don't like that they just like, I don't know, they kind of like negated everything I was trying to do by sticking up for myself by just calling me an asshole. And it just sort of like, it was very dismissive.
So they negated you. They were dismissive. You were just sticking up for yourself.
Yeah.
You think they would agree with all those statements?
No, because I think from their perspective, they don't see it that way. They think I'm an asshole. And
why do they think you were being an asshole?
I don't know.
Guess.
Because maybe they felt like I was infringing upon their by me sticking up for myself. Maybe they thought that they were slighted in some way.
So maybe they were slighted in some way, and what they did, maybe they felt slighted in some way, or they perceived, in my language, slighted in some way that led to a cascade of feelings. They then externalized those onto you. Mm-hmm. You then externalize them back onto them, and off we go. So we've got multiple processes here, when what may have started at the very beginning was you trying to protect something that was important for you, them trying to protect something that was important for them, both of you getting overly focused on what the other person was doing, both of you having hurt feelings both directions, and then all of a sudden the accusations start flying. So, I mean, you did not call them a name, you did not call them an asshole. I don't think they should have called you an asshole, and I would recommend we have a conversation about that. But something in the sticking up for myself calling them negating and dismissive is at least accusatory. So we got name calling on one side, accusatory on the other. None of this is helpful. But let's try something else. What did you actually need from them?
I wanted respect from them. I wanted them to respect what I was asking of them.
What happens to you when you struggle with feelings of respect or disrespect?
I feel small if I feel like I'm not being respected or getting respect from people. I feel small and not valued and powerless.
Small and powerless feel very internal to me. And I could see along with that feelings of weakness, feelings of dependency. Those feel to me like they've got nothing to do with the other person. Would you say those are feelings that come up for you from time to time?
Yeah.
So after they did some things, you started to feel some things. You do feel these things from time to time. You do battle these things from time to time, and it's reasonable that you would. But that's different than them making you feel those things. Lots of things can make you feel those things. And one came after the other. There's this old Latin fallacy, post hoc ergo propter hoc, which is a way of saying after, therefore, because of. Because one thing happened and then another thing happened, I decide that the cause of the thing that happened second is the thing that happened first. The cause of the thing that happened second is my entire history with this set of emotions. These things are important to me, and anything that represents something that is adjacent to these things that are important to me are going to activate that whole network. There are many ways to activate me, and so we can simultaneously have several things going on. They could have had an innocent need. You could have had an innocent need. They said a thing they shouldn't have said. You said some things you shouldn't have said. Your things got activated. Their things got activated. You're having your own internal emotions. They're having their own internal emotions. And it really is that complicated. Another situation, somebody calls you an asshole, and you're like, you're an asshole. Like, I don't, yeah. Or they don't matter to you. Or you're like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? This one matters to you because you.
Yeah, I could see how in a different circumstance, somebody calling me an asshole would just kind of like reflect right off of me. But because of the specific circumstances of this situation and all of my background and history of times when I've felt powerless, times when I felt small and wasn't listened to and wasn't respected, all of those things are activated in this moment, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, you could see how that could offend somebody, but it doesn't have to. And it's sort of a choice to care.
Yeah. I mean, I could see how it's a choice to care, but I also see how, like, I don't know, it's complicated. Sometimes I feel like maybe these issues are so deeply the history of, like, for instance, the history of me feeling powerless or small or not respected, they can go back so deep that it almost feels like the choice to care or not to care in those situations that kind of activate those feelings in me seems like I could see a client saying, I don't have a choice to, I know we always have a choice. I know you're going to say that, but
And that's the answer. We always have a choice. We always have a choice. You don't get to choose what emotions you have. You do get to choose what responses you offer. So an old AA adage, I think, is you're not responsible for your first thought. You are responsible for your second thought and your first action.
That I use with clients often as well. That was a game changer for me too. And what was another thing you said? It was like in between a stimulus and a response, there's always a choice.
Absolutely.
I like that one too.
And it's our whole history that ends up making these things actually affect us, but also it's our current decisions that determine the degree to which we invest in those. So perhaps we start to feel small and powerless. Reactively, we may decide to make ourselves big and powerful. And so I'm sticking up for myself. Why do I stick up for myself? Because I felt small and powerless. Therefore, I need to be big and powerful.
Mm.
Can we notice our own process rather than our perceptions of their process? Plus, by the way, when this happens in couples sessions, almost without fail, if it was an argument that happened days ago, I ask them about it, and they're like, "I didn't say that." It's like, great. So we don't even agree that names were called. Oh, well, he's gaslighting. What do you want to do with that? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but we're here now. So if you're trying to work on relationship with this person, then we can either litigate what they did or didn't say and what is true or not true, or we could deal with the fact that what you felt during that argument is valid and real on its own without debate, no matter what. I felt small could be entirely about you and they didn't call you a name and you misheard them and they didn't actually call you an asshole. But the fact that you felt small and powerless is still important. And then hearkening back to our last episode when we were talking about apology, if you then channel that into, oh, so I have to apologize for you feeling small when I didn't even call you an asshole? No, don't apologize. Just understand, why did you feel small? Well, when you said what you said, I started to feel really powerless. It reminds me of things that people in my past have said to me. And when those things happen, I sometimes reflexively start to stand up for myself. All valid. All valid. There's nothing to argue with there. This thing happened, then I felt small. That's fine. There's no argument there. When I felt small, I did these things, whether I should or I shouldn't have. I did them. And here's why. Okay, makes sense. We can talk about why those things happen and understand that process. Then the other person says, but when you did those things, I then felt myself feeling quite defensive. Again, there's no accusation in that. You did this, then I felt defensive. It's not that what you did was wrong, even if I'm giving notes, I probably wouldn't, stick up for yourself in quite those ways. When one thing happens, another thing happens, and we can take each one on its own as valid experiences, as valid internal psychological experiences.
That's such a game changer too. And yes, because I think often couples will have the fight over like the semantics of like what exactly was said or was not said, or in what way it was said, when really we're just talking about feelings. Like that's what's really at the core of like what's happening here is like I'm feeling this way and you're feeling this way. But we're just talking about like the specifics of the language, which is not really at the core of what this is about.
And sometimes you have completely unreasonable and completely illogical reasons for feeling what you're feeling, / really what's happening is your history's coming back up and it's manifesting in these ways. And so that does make it reasonable and it does make it valid. And so the other person could say something like, hey, when you didn't want to have any of the corn that I cooked, it made me feel really insignificant. And you're like, the fuck, it's corn. Why does that matter? It's like, on the surface makes no sense. But if you dig into it, this person could have a completely reasonable reaction to that sort of thing that's just tied to their own stuff. And if I have to have a defensible reason for feeling what I'm feeling, then we are in litigating fact land, and we can't deal with the fact that I just had legitimate emotions for
And the other person's just like, I don't understand why you would feel that way. I don't see that perspective at all.
Yeah.
So in the case, the general scenario that I presented, the person that called me an asshole, is there no blame on that person?
So this is real. I had a conversation with a friend some months ago in which they did quite literally call me an asshole. And what I said was, I felt really uncomfortable during that last conversation. Really didn't like how that went, and I think it's really important for me for name calling to not really be a part of my friendships, because I think having healthy friendships is so important to me.
Mm.
They could be like, I didn't call you name. You could say, okay. I'm just saying that name calling is really, it's a thing that makes me feel uncomfortable. So whether it did or didn't happen, it is a thing that makes me feel really uncomfortable. In this case, when I said it in those ways, they were just like, fair. I've never called me a name since.
I love the way that you stated that. Like, um, because maybe this person doesn't know how important it is to you to, because unfortunately, some friendships in jest, there is some name calling that happens. Doesn't happen in my friendships, I will tell you. But maybe
Yeah, she could have been joking, right?
right,
And I'm taking it all serious, like.
right. But maybe your friend legitimately didn't know that that was like something that made you uncomfortable, and it was of value to you to not have name calling in friendships. And so to just come at them out of the gate with like, that was really horrible of you, and you can't do that, or we're not going to be friends anymore. It's like, whoa. You know.
Yeah, exactly. They handled that conversation awesome, and I think it was partly because, we took some time and then we both looked after each other in the conversation. So if we're focused on what they did, we're not focused on who we are and what we need and why. And so they don't get it. How would they get it? We don't get it for ourselves.
Do we even understand or know what's going on with ourselves before we start looking at the other person?
Yeah, rarely. But we should try. We should endeavor to.
Something to chew on, guys.
Yeah.
I loved this little mini conversation, and I think we added still a lot of depth in this short episode for people.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, new quote. And you have some circling going on. Did it, in a circle, come to me, or did I, in a circle, go find it? Ooh. Okay, I'm just gonna spitball just what came to mind first for me with this. I can imagine one of my girlfriends saying like, "Oh my God, all these jerk frat boys, they just always seem to find me. All these players, they just seem to find me." I don't know if this is like where you're going with this quote, but I could see some of my friends being like, "Man, like, how did these players always just seem to find me? I always seem to end up dating these guys."
Yeah, we forget the power of our own attention. What do we put focus on? What do we seek out for ourselves? And how do we end up kind of perpetuating our own circumstances? I have yet another future episode idea on what I like to call the cyclical irony of psychological distress, and the ways that we can kind of internally recreate for ourselves the same negative circumstances or unpleasant circumstances that we wish we could rid ourselves of. We're doing it. And I think it's so hard in any given moment to recognize when we are making choices that take us back down that same path.
Ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow. And I could see people getting defensive at that. Like, are you telling me that I go seek out F boys? No, I don't. Well, let's take a look at like some of the ways you're approaching dating and who you choose to message.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got a lot on that front too. I was just talking with a friend this week about how often we end up picking the people to message where it's like, oh, well, they're easy to talk to, they're funny, they're cute, they're charming. It's like those things aren't actually all that valuable for building a relationship around. And also you can end up building a lot of those things with somebody who may not display it with you at first.
Right.
Also, I'm sure there's some nice frat boys.
I don't know why that was what just came out of my mouth. I'm sure there are a lot of lovely frat boys in the world. I'm sorry to all the frat boys listening.
Yeah. Hey, if we could get some frat boys listening, though, please share it with your frat boy friends.
Yes.
Share the pod.
Do a frat boy listening party.
Yes.
But yeah, just this whole idea of like personal responsibility and the thing, and like, okay, let's take a look at like how your responsibility, your actions in this circumstance. And I understand that could be a really hard look in the mirror.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do also, we were kind of joking about sharing this with frat boys. I wanted to just look really quickly. Our listener gender breakdown right now is 86% female identified. So if you happen to be female identified, would you be willing to share it with a male identified friend? Maybe that's a way that we could start to spread some of the messaging toward male identified folks.
I love that. And that's really cool that you have those stats.
Well, and a little creepy that they know.
That too. It's creepy that technology and everything, they know who we are. They know who's listening.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a lovely podcast, and thank you all for listening and tuning into this mini episode. Again, if you're interested in a consultation, reach out to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. And check out our Substack at delvepsych.substack.com. We will see you all next week.
Thank you so much, Allie.
Thanks, Adam.